Nutrition Depot, your fitness fuel.
Welcome to the 13th episode of the Nutrition Depot podcast. I'm Hannah Bacani, your host, and today is so special because I have professional flexers in the room with me, aka bodybuilders, as we learn the ins and outs about bodybuilding or natural bodybuilding 101, everything you need to know. Here joining us is Grant Thang. He is the WNBF Bodybuilding Pro, WNBF World's Lightweight 5th in the world. Hey, Grant. NBAU Bodybuilding and Classic Physique Pro. We also have Eric Gonzalez, Doctor of Dental Medicine, World Natural Bodybuilder Federation Professional, Overall Champion WNBF, PH6 Men's Physique, and NJ Abba, Online Fitness Coach, Content Creator, Marathoner, Hybrid Athlete, and competing in his first bodybuilding competition this year. He has prep brain right now. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. There's a lot of muscle in the room with us. I feel like if I hang out with you guys, maybe I'll join you too.
Competition next year. Next year.
So thanks for joining us here. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners are curious about bodybuilding, the ins and outs, and natural bodybuilding to say, okay? So what do you think are the key principles of natural bodybuilding, and how does it differ from other forms of bodybuilding?
So natural bodybuilding, I think the difference from that with other forms of bodybuilding, like, untested or enhanced bodybuilding, natural bodybuilding does not get the use of, steroids and performance enhancing drugs. So we have to focus a lot more on our training, nailing it like day in, day out, same with the nutrition.
It's a lot more patient and tedious. It takes a lot of mental strain, but also it takes a lot of discipline. Right, Enjoy? Yeah. I wanted to ask, what are the different forms of bodybuilding for those that are wanting to get into the sport?
For the difference from some, there are categories. So one is bodybuilding, number two is men's physique, and then right now meron yung classic physique. And there are like some new categories na pwede nyong like i-check. For each federation kasi, there are like different categories talaga. Or that's the three main categories right now na medyo mainstream. Mainstream talaga. So hindi ko alam kung ano yung sasabihin ni NJ.
Story ko na.
Story time. So what are you joining this year?
I'll be joining the 3 divisions. So it depends on what shows. Kasi limited lang din. Like there are other shows na maximum of 2 lang. Actually, yeah. The 2 shows that I'm joining, max 2 lang each. So, ayun, so first one is I'll be joining the WNBF. Wala namang classic physique doon, so I'm forced to do men's physique and then open bodybuilding. And then for WNBF, I had to choose between classic physique talaga, automatic. That's the third one he mentioned. Tapos, based on the people I asked, yung mga experts na into bodybuilding, parang they see my physique as a more of a fit for bodybuilding instead of men's physique. So I decided to join bodybuilding instead. So yeah, I finorgo ko yung men's physique. But I'm still happy kasi I still get to try men's physique sa WNBF show.
What's the difference between men's physique and bodybuilding?
General bodybuilding, you're wearing trunks. It's your legs. For bodybuilding, it's more leaning towards the size. Men's physique is where you have board shorts. They're looking more for like a good taper. So like a nice V taper. And then classic physique, you're still wearing trunks, but it's a bit more flowy, I think. Like you want more aesthetic poses. Like it's not necessarily about being the biggest guy on stage or the hardest guy on stage. Classic physique, you have to nail the poses, you have to look. There's a certain look, there's a certain classic look that they want. And that's what sets it apart, I think, from both bodybuilding and men's physique.
It's my favorite category. The classic physique.
The classic, the board shorts.
And the one, the trunks. Yeah, with a more flowy.
Dancers. Are you guys?
Yeah.
No.
He was a b-boy dancer. Yeah. Literally. So when he does his poses, I'm like, grab.
But I think like mga best poses is best dancer din eh. Like usually like the one
category.
I mean like the one who is good at posing. Sobrang good rin sa mga yung mga dancer talaga. Or like may history na So,
So, so you hit the beat and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
hit the flex.
It looks different.
Wow.
mas smoother. Kasi ako, I'm not a dancer. Kaya I know, like, I just do, no, I just do simple poses lang talaga. And like, nakikita ko sila, okay. Dancer sila. Hindi ako.
I need to take dance lessons.
Siguro.
That's the key, diba? For the
Siguro,
musicality of it.
Siguro.
I like how we're unpacking this because I feel like I'm learning so much as well. I get really confused with the physique, with the bodybuilding. So, as a first timer in bodybuilding or natural bodybuilding, how can you determine the most suitable competition for your needs and goals?
I think first of all, you need to plan ahead kung ano yung competition and ano yung goal mo talaga. Especially like there are 3 categories. Most of it kasi as a natural bodybuilder, say, you have a certain genetics talaga. Where like your body type is medyo, not necessarily nagdi-dictate talaga, but it's a big factor. Like for me, I have like a wide shoulder talaga and a small waist. Yung legs ko medyo like, you know, like, nagdumula. Unlike si Grad, di ba? So, I go dun sa aesthetic kung saan ako medyo stronger chance to win the competition talaga. So, it depends kung ano yung parang mas okay talaga sa'yo. So, you need to plan ahead and then don't rush. I need to talk to someone talaga to decide kung ano yung mga gagawin mo. Hindi yung basta, I can join. Kasi even trainings, different talaga eh. Like, for bodybuilding, I know sila, like, grabbing yung legs, hamstring, everything. Sa amin, men's physique, I know, hindi dapat, pero medyo less yung leg workout namin. Since hindi siya masyadong nabibigyan ng score. So, yeah. Yeah. So, medyo yun yung difference talaga.
I just wanted to ask, how long does it take to prep for a competition? Is there a bulking and cutting season or you just cut right away? How does it work?
You can improve talaga every season eh. Parang when you cutting is faster than bulking actually. So the problem lang is if you cut too soon and you don't have the muscle mass it's hiding inside your body fat, medyo you're gonna mahirapan ka to place when you compete. So the like short, in my opinion, the shortest time that you can prep if you're relatively lean, like 15 to 20% body fat, mga 16 weeks or like 4 months of prep. That's the minimum na if you want a good experience with your prep. Kasi yung iba naman, some people like 8 weeks lang, ganun, pero you have to be very aggressive sa diet mo. If you want to, kahit place lang man.
If you want to do well.
Yeah, but there are other people naman who still go to the shows pero they have a higher body fat, pero we're just speaking about like in competitive
level.
Yeah. At least you can place top 5.
Sometimes kami sa bodybuilding competition, they always think prep season is cutting lang. Na I think dun nagkakaroon ng problem talaga. They don't realize like off-season is really important. So before like my first year bodybuilding, when they say when are you prepping for a competition? Okay, like 16 weeks out, like 20 weeks out, that's the cutting season. But right now, when people asking me when are you going to compete for a competition, I'm saying right now I'm prepping because even off season kailangan maayos yung training, maayos yung nutrition. Unlike before na cutting ka lang magsaseryoso. And yun yung nagiging, I think, problem. Pero if you really want to be competitive in a higher, sa level nila Grand, I think yun yung kailangan mong i-achieve talaga.
If you're trying to be really competitive, you have to plan this out.
Wow.
Yeah, so at least for me, my last show was in 2022. I already had it in mind that 2024 will be my next like season. If not 2024, then 2025. So you have to plan accordingly. You already have to know like how long you're gonna bulk, which is like majority of that, and then go back to the cutting phase, which is like 6. You'd expect around like 6 months minimum, 4 to 6 months, right?
Yeah.
And everything else would be your off season, but you're still actually working just as hard, right? But you're not on a diet for majority.
In terms of bodybuilding training techniques, what's the difference between bulking and cutting?
I don't think there's much of a difference. So if you're bulking or if you're cutting, you should be in general doing the same things.
Mm-hmm.
I think the difference is when I'm cutting, I will tend to hold back on doing more work. So I either reduce my volume a bit. Actually, most cases I'll reduce my volume. So babalik tayo sa pag nakabulk ka baka 3 to 5 sets pa yan kasi may energy pa. You have enough to pour over it. But then once you get to prep, once you're super deep, low body fat, you might have to tone it down a little just to make sure you're recovering from every session.
For bulking pala, it's more on like eating more, but you're like exerting out. Like for example, calories in versus calories out. So dapat mas mataas yung kinakain mong calories kaysa na-burn mong calories to bulk up. But misconception na kasi na iba, when they do bulking, they do dirty bulking, they can eat whatever they want. But of course, if you're like really want to be in the top bodybuilding, kailangan naka-plan ahead siya. So, go for lean bulking, hindi ka dapat masyadong, still yung macros mo dapat counted pa rin. And then for cutting naman, more on like deficit ka dapat, caloric deficit ka. So, less yung kinakain mo na calories dun sa biniburnout mo na calories. So, it's more yung basic reason talaga to, energy balance and talaga to do cutting, to do the bulking. But in terms ng workouts, wala naman talaga silang difference, diba? I mean,
Same movements.
yeah, same movements talaga. Intensity-wise, dapat mataas.
Maybe if ever yung mangyayari is when you're cutting, maybe you'll remove like the more taxing exercises. Especially for prepping. If you're just regular cut, like, normal cut lang, lifestyle cut, usually no difference. Deep into prep, maybe you might want to remove like your free weight squats or your deadlifts because those are heavily taxing. You might not recover them. And they pose a bit more injury rather than prep.
Other people who also enjoy weightlifting. We love the deadlifts, we love the squats. So that surprised me that you don't always have to integrate that to get that physique. I wanted to ask the nitty-gritty of your daily split. What are the reps like? How many exercises? What are the movements looking like?
Actually, my training evolved through the years. Before, from a high volume training, so like 4 sets, 5 sets, whatever. Now I'm doing 2 to 3 sets na. But right now kasi, they're too conflicting. There are people pa rin who likes training with high volume, like 4 to 5 sets. But the tendency is when you see them training, yung quality or yung intensity is low. Kaya nakakadami sila for
Lower weight.
But now na parang I'm very particular with my quality of training, na-realize ko kahit 2 set lang pala, pero you go to failure, close or if not to failure, 2 sobrang pagod na ako for a certain body part. So, ayun, that's what's yung current training ko ngayon, and it's really helping me now sa sa prep ko with conserving my energy kasi the quality talaga. So, but again, conflicting. Like, I've seen people then who do high volume and maganda din naman result.
High volume. Like, so, di ba, like,
High volume.
nag-train kami together kasi before, like, sobrang high volume ako mag-training. When I say high, like, 6 workouts per session, tas 4 sets. Pero I started kasi na, like, 5 workouts, 3 sets lang talaga per workout. Pero as time passed by, like, syempre, mas tumataas na yung kailangan mo. I feel na hindi na siya enough. So, it's more like, nagiging smart na rin na, maybe first set, like, warm-up set, and then, like, nung ka na mag-workout, like, pabigat na siyang pabigat. So, yun yung parang difference lang. So, it works both ways naman. It depends siguro sa fitness level ng tao. Kasi, like, possible na si NJ kasi, like, first year niya mag-compete right now. So, of course, yung volume niya, and then, ako, I'm competing na for, like, mas 3 years, like 2 years na. So, mas mataas yung volume na kailangan ko. And it depends rin sa strength ng tao, I guess.
I guess once there's like it goes
up.
anyway.
There's a
Basically, they all work.
Yes.
Given the proper circumstances, given the proper environment, diba? So you can do low volume because you're trying to conserve your energy. You can do low volume because, let's say, because you're training to failure, diba? You're training and it takes up more energy. But you can also do higher volumes, assuming you can also still recover.
For that, yes.
I think that's one of the biggest things when we're considering training variables is, can you recover from it? First, diba? You might be able to grow from it, but if you can't recover from it, maybe in the long run, that might lead to
Meron ko question lang. So, since parang you do high, kasi ngayon, I need to rest, like, since I'm going to failure or close to failure talaga, parang I need 4 to 5 minutes of rest sa next set.
Oh,
Ikaw, curious na ako.
Usually talaga, it's more like times 3 to times 4 ng working time ng sets. Like, for example, if I do like a bench press, if I do it like for 1 minute, I do times 4 to times 5. So, rest for 4 to 5 minutes. Like, it's just for example, like, if hindi ko ginagawa 1 minute. Yeah. Kaya for example lang, if I do,
Hindi naman siya
like, if I do 15 reps,
Kasi, parang like, in relation to my clients lang, parang I tend to give a rest time each set. Parang papapansin ko, most of them don't follow it. Ang nangyayari, they tend to rush their rest.
It's getting weaker each set.
Parang kasi gusto siguro like, usually fat loss naman kasi parang they still believe na, totoo ba yun? Like, when you rest na over and
Workout agad.
mapawisan,
More sweat.
ganun.
More sweat, more fat loss.
Kasi this actually put some on lifestyle.
Life
Life like that.
I think it's because you don't use as much of your muscle mass for your force production and what. So you get the stress less of your muscle, in which case it recovers faster between sets. So that I think it's not it's not always a matter of like trying to lose more fat. It's just that they recover between sets faster because they're moving.
Good point.
So I wanted to ask you this question specifically. As a natural bodybuilder, tell me a working split of 5 days a week, every day per set and per movement.
How fast can I?
And you have 1 minute. No, I'm just kidding.
I guess we need to like know about it.
Tell me yours.
Give me the background.
Tell me yours.
Yeah, okay. So I'm doing push-pull legs, upper lower. So it was push-pull legs, rest, upper lower, rest. So my push days, I'll have like one chest pressing movement, one shouldery / incline pressing movement, and one fly movement, followed by like one like lateral delta and one tricep. Yeah, so those all go around like 2 sets each. For the delts, maybe we'll go 3 sets because those tend to recover faster. In terms of rep ranges, those will be like, those are kind of everywhere. So sometimes it'll be between like the 8 to 10, sometimes like 4 to 6, sometimes 10 to 15, 15 to 20. Those all work, assuming you're training hard enough. For back, it's usually, or actually for full day, which is the second day, that's going to be one vertical, one upper back, because that's sort of my weak point. Actually, sorry, 2 upper back stuff. One on the lats, 1 rear delts, and 1 biceps. 5. Same thing. Rep ranges, medyo all over the place. Sets, we should 2 sets. I'll go 3, maybe even 4 if it's something I can recover from. Legs, for me, I don't have to do that much for it. So I'll usually do like 1 heavy squat-ish pattern. Leg curl, calves, sneak in maybe 1 more thing like an adductor or like leg extensions. Tapos abs na, like 1 minute. Sometimes for quads, I'll do like 1 set long per day. But anyways, for upper body day, that's when I'm a bit more flexible, like towards the end of the week, kasi alam mo nang bugbog na. So for those last 2 days, yung upper and yung lower day ko, medyo exercise selection will be more on my comfortable movements. What does it hurt? What's not too sore? And then, even with the rep ranges and the sets, I'll do what I can recover from.
Do you always train to failure when you guys are training?
Not everyone has to train to failure, but I...
Then there are other exercises that's unsafe to train to failure. Like for example, squat, especially for
100 squats.
highly discouraged, di ba? But for machines, usually yan, may train to failure. Like bicep curl, kung mag-fail ka naman, it's not gonna hurt you. Anyway, but my mindset talaga is to try to train to failure.
Most of the time. As long as it's safe. I think like Grant, nabanggit niya kanina sa laging part talaga. So in terms of training, it's a different thing kasi like my first year of competition, medyo weakest point ko is yung upper chest. Like some of the judges like told me, okay naman, ang problem is like you don't have upper chest, like yung side that's mo medyo weaker. So on my next off season, it's more on like nag-different yung training ko from before. I always do bench press na flat barbell. I shifted na puro incline. Like most of the incline, I do 2 incline chest press just to make sure na ito yung ma-focus talaga. And then, inuuna ko na rin yung side delts compared to front. Kasi yun yung weak point mo eh. So, I think different person talaga, especially if you're gonna compete. Different person have different weaknesses. So, it's more on dun mo, adjust like yung training. Like, on my first year din, lacking daw ng thickness on my back. So, I do a lot of rowing naman. Then right now, actually even I asked you before, di ba? Like, bro, like I'm planning to maglaro sa World. I mean sa Pro Show. Sabi, ano kulang? more on side delts pa, something like that. So, right now, yun yung parang wino-workout ko. Kasi there's a certain key points, or like there's a certain type ng body na hinahanap yung mga judge na for each category. So, yun yung kailangan mong tend to work out. Like for men's physique, side delts, upper chest, taper. So, medyo iwas ako sa mga, like, you know, like compound talaga na sobrang baka mag-blocky yung waist mo. Like, for example, deadlift, hindi na ako masyadong, like, ma-deadlift. Hindi na ako masyadong... So, yun. So, I think, yun yung medyo iiba sa training talaga. Depends on your lagging part. Kung ano yung nahanap ng judge, kailangan mo siyang i-point out kung ano ibigay sa kanila kung ano yung nahanap talaga.
May question lang din ako. If you or if mayroon kayo laging body part, ba should you like prioritize it first thing sa training mo? Like, if you want to grow your set, kasi usually like yung lateral raises or ginagawa yan or commonly sa gitna ng training. Midway, like towards the end, sa gitna ng training. But if you really have to break up your side, do you agree ba na ilalagay siya first set of the first exercise?
That's one option, right? It's definitely an option, but I always preach that the first thing you have to do for a lagging body part is to prioritize your execution. Just make sure that you're actually doing it right before actually playing around. Diba? So some people complain about, okay, my calves are lagging, but then you see how they do their calves and it's really an afterthought. So they don't do nearly enough load on it. They don't get anywhere close to failure. They're really just jumping up and down. And that's one of the reasons why it's not going. So then you start like honing in on the technique and then makuha mo na talaga siya ng maayos. Tapos hindi pa rin siya lumaki. That's when you can start doing things like, okay, maybe I'll add a little bit of volume. Maybe I'll use a different variation. Maybe I'll put it in front of my workout. But if you can't even nail the exercise itself, then it's probably not going to go.
I think that really helps that if you have a coach to mind that entire process and show them if you're lagging with anything and asking the community how reaching out to Grant and having that open forum. I wanted to ask also, because we're talking a lot about weightlifting here. As a bodybuilder, do you guys just lift weights or are you doing any other cross training?
Top 4?
But definitely, if you want to, like, right now, like, I've shifted na my volume from, kasi before, after my marathon ended last February, definitely I toned back on, running. Kasi parang, if you really want to focus talaga on bodybuilding, and yung running and bodybuilding kasi is parang, and not completely opposite, pero medyo opposite siya in a way. Kasi when you're contest prepping, you're managing your fatigue. Running is really fatiguing. Yeah. So you have to balance. So right now, you can still do both, but I also I'm transparent with my sa social media ko na parang right now, since this is my you have to know your priority now. But doesn't mean na complete tanggalin mo siya. Probably I will remove my running na pag siguro 2 weeks out, 1 week out kanina lang. Pero right now, I'm still doing fun runs like every week. I'm joining free. Kasi I love it naman. It's also a form of cardio.
Yeah, it's cardio.
It's just a cardio. It also helps you to... And then whenever I get more. And you get stress. So, if you guys love running and you also want to bodybuild, kaya niyo yan, girls. Doable.
You guys, do you do any other forms of training? Okay, Grant. I flex in front of the mirror. That's
sa akin, like, before I do, I'm a varsity kasi, it's like before, like, badminton, volleyball, basketball. So, sometimes, like, namimiss mo siyang gawin. But of course, there's a certain limit talaga. Kasi, like, if you're in the pro level na gusto mo mag-compete sa world, or let's say, SEA Games, like, ganun ka-elite na, you want na medyo iwas ka sa injury. And you know naman, like, other contacts, or especially basketball, like, one jump lang. Like, so, mahirap lang siya i-work around. But of course, if you're going to play basketball and you're just gonna go there to shoot lang naman, nothing crazy, diba? Why not? You know, not that people get injured from playing friendly games. Yeah, friendly games. Hindi na pala friendly games. Naglaro.
And parang 2 years.
I think yun yung nagiging problem lang. Like, sometimes medyo nagiging too much. Especially, bodybuilding kasi medyo stressful naman talaga sa joints. Like, you're lifting heavy weights. And then if you're going to different sports, like for example, even badminton, explosive siya sa knees, sa joints, and dahil lateral movements, everything. So I think dun lang nagkaka-problem. Since matagal mo na hindi ginawa yun, mayaman ko, feeling ko, magaling ko. Kaya ko sa ate.
Hindi ka naman dati. Of course. Muscle memory as well.
Yeah. Tapos magsasabi na, Coach, stop pala muna ako ng training. Na-ACL ako. Yun. Totoo yun. So yun, actually cross-training sobrang okay. Like, masaya siya gawin. Yeah, even like swimming.
And having a good cardiovascular fitness sa recovery mo din eh.
Or even the training itself, like, you can push hard rin talaga. Some bodybuilders kasi think na pag bodybuilder ako, hindi ko na i-prioritize yung jogging, yung running, or like cardiovascular health mo kasi general fitness na magbubuhat ka lang naman ng like one motion. But ang hindi na na-realize, once na mas mataas yung cardiovascular health mo, mas malakas ka mag-push, mas longer, mas mabilis yung time, yung rest day mo, yung rest time na kailangan mo. So, makapag-workout ka ng mas maganda, you gain more muscle, di ba? So, I think yun lang yung parang nagiging problem to other bodybuilders na they think, ay, hindi na kailangan yun. Yeah, or baka maubos daw yung muscle nila kasi cardio, too much cardio, ganyan. But I think as long as okay naman yung nutrition mo, recovery mo, and then yung training routine mo, I think wala nang magiging problema.
I had to ask you, how do you know if someone is on steroids based on how they look? Can you just guess like, I know you're juicing, bro.
Sige. Like kasi, based on experience na kasi, like ilang beses na si napagkamalan si Gret. Ilang beses
With
na.
this question.
Okay, so I feel like the longer you're in this game, the more you see like the extents of the human body, how far they can actually go, and like when you see it in person, it's crazy. Diba? Especially up front once you've competed like internationally, and I think that was one of the biggest things for me. Now when I started competing internationally, when you see the pool there, it just makes you want to do more because it's crazy how far they are ahead. But as far as like knowing who's actually enhanced and who's not, medyo mahirap. Like I can't necessarily tell this guy, like whoever's claiming natty, I can't exactly say they're not natty.
Mm-hmm.
But I can kind of, you it comes in ranges. Like,
Is it the back knee? Is it the too much vascularity? Is it
I guess it's the size. There's a look to it. And you can never say like 100%. Well, unless you're like once you're like Mr. Olympia level, then you definitely know.
Yeah.
To get to that level, that's not something you can do without the transplant. But for the in-betweens, it doesn't really matter. Does it? Because if you can compete and you know it yourself that you're natural, and you can compete against people who claim to be natural but they're not, does it even matter, diba? Parang,
don't compare yourself to others.
don't compare. How
Well, there's no way naman talaga na malalaman eh. I mean, drug test. Or like most of the time, hindi mo siya masasabi. Especially like people tend to judge sa social media lang. Like when you go to social media kasi makita mo yung like comments lang nila, oh like fake natin, something like that. But pag nakita mo yung tao in person, there's filter and social. Like ang hirap. Like yung iba, madali lang sila mag-judge na parang. But there's no way talaga. There's no way. Of course nga, sabi ni Glenn, no.
unless they're really so far ahead.
Okay.
That's a
But like, ano sabi mo yun, like too much. Ito talaga, too much.
it's a different species.
Yeah, I don't want that. Like, especially, of course, like, Olympian level nga talaga, diba? Pero like, for us, we know na hindi na namin marireach yung ganong level being natural. So like, we also have the expectation na rin sa sarili namin kung ano lang yung kaya namin ma-achieve naturally. Pero like, we know na we can peak like, maybe like, let's say 10 years from now, talagang like peak ng natural bodybuilding mo. Pero we still cannot achieve that kind of look. Yung SIBO, like still SIBO, hindi mo na siya ma-achieve talaga.
How you brought up like genetics, maybe our race. the nutrition, and all the different factors that go into natural bodybuilding, because it's different as an Asian build, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel that that's a difference?
Yeah, I mean, it's different, especially when you're in the actual show.
Right.
And you're up against people who are like 6 foot plus.
Yeah.
Beside and, like, it's a good thing we have weight classes, but some shows don't have weight classes kasi konti lang tayo. So sometimes you'll be. I was once up against a guy who was like 162. Actually, if we're talking about height classes, weight classes, we're actually not at a disadvantage. Once you're all like set together, we actually look pretty good. Again, yeah, I think like that's others that go to races.
Okay, that's good to know. And you know what? We're going to talk more about that in the next episode about nutrition, genetics, supplementing, and everything else in between. So tune in to the next episode of Natural Bodybuilding 101.
Nutrition Depot, your fitness fuel.